Comrades and friends, today our country is going through one of the worst periods in its entire history, because today the Indian regime is now controlled by RSS, the longest running and the biggest fascist organization in the world today. We all know that as the biggest fascist organization, RSS is now having its control over the entire micro and macro spaces of our country. It controls the state power as well as the street power, and BJP is only one of the political tools of RSS. BJP itself, we know that it claims in 2020 that it had 18 crore membership. So that BJP is only one of the political tools of RSS. RSS has hundreds of open and secret organizations. It controls the entire aspects of our country: military, judiciary, the whole civilian administration, education, history, culture, everything, and even economy. Being a far right organization in its economic philosophy, it is the most far right organization. Therefore, in all these aspects, we are facing a very serious crisis. So, it is in this context that we are taking up the task of the anti-fascist struggle today. And we know fascism is not a mere question of any what is called any religious question. Fascism is always connected with the interest of the most reactionary elements of corporate capital. It is a dictatorship. It is authoritarian regime of the most reactionary, the most corrupt corporate capital today. And we know that the Adanis, the Ambanis are now controlling this country, the wealth of this country. We know that almost 60% of the country's wealth is controlled by 1% of the super rich, and only less than 3% of the country's wealth is with 90% of the people here. So that much inequality is there. And the so-called crony capitalism. We know that Adani, who was the third biggest capitalist, crony capitalist in the world, in the list of world billionaires, who was having the third rank now, though he is collapsed to 33, his position. Still we know how he is integrally linked up with the regime, how he is identified with the Modi regime, all these things we know. So it is for the interest of these corporates that this fascist regime is superimposed on us. And now, in our perspective, in our country today, the immediate and the most urgent political task of the people today is to resist and defeat this fascism now imposed on us by the most reactionary sections of our country. We know that there are many ruling classes in India. The ruling class parties are in India. And these ruling class parties are having their interests, having their roots in corporate capital. In spite of that, we know all ruling class parties are not fascist. For example, the Congress, which initiated the neoliberal far right policies in our country in the 90s, abandoning the Nehruvian model that we were following still then. Though the Congress started it, and the Congress is soaked Hindutva also, we know all these things. And it was during the regime of the Congress that the Babri Masjid was demolished. But we know, in spite of all that past events, we still say that we will not characterize the Congress as a fascist party. Similarly, the many ruling parties are there. There are the social democrats, like CPM, for example, which ruled in Bengal for 34 years. And in Kerala, it is holding power. It is now with Adani. When the Vizhinjam question came up, we know the Vizhinjam port, controlled by Adani, where the fisher folk, the the most oppressed sections of Kerala, they fought against Adani's that project. But at that time, we know the BJP on the right side and CPM on the left side were protecting Adani. And the CPM government led by Pinarayi is now the most what is called associated with the corporate capitalists. The chosen Kerala is one of the place where corporates are very much interested to invest. In spite of that, we still say that these parties like CPM, even in spite of implementing the most reactionary policies there, we are not saying that CPM is a fascist party. Similarly, Trinamool is there. Many parties are there who are implementing neoliberal policies, far-right policies, but only BJP is a fascist party because it is controlled by RSS. This is the Indian situation. Therefore, in this context, what should be our understanding, what should be our approach in our fight against how we will overcome this fascist situation? Because we know why we should overcome, because if the fascists are there, because 2024 the general election is coming. In that general election, if the RSS, the BJP wins, RSS means BJP, BJP means RSS. If the RSS BJP wins, we know that they will go to any extent of declaring India as a Hindu Rashtra. And in the colonial, during the colonial period, when the Indian people were fighting against British imperialism, the RSS was actually supporting. It was not fighting against, their enemies were not British imperialism. Their enemies were Muslims, Christians and Hindus. They declared. Goldberg's, this bunch of thoughts, we know. There it is declared that Muslims are the enemies number one. Then Christians, communists. These were the enemies of the RSS, not British colonialism. And we know that Afro-Asian Latin American countries are concerned during the colonial period, and even now in the neo-colonial period, imperialism is the enemy of the people. During the colonial period, anti-colonialism was the essence of nationalism. But the RSS claiming themselves as the most patriotic, they were supporting the British. So this is the history of RSS. Not only that, they demanded, they proposed that when in 1949, November 26, when the Constituent Assembly led by Dr. Ambedkar was finalizing the Indian Constitution, RSS proposed in its organizer, November 30th, November 26, the Constituent Assembly proposed the new Constitution, adopted the new Constitution. And in November 30th itself, 1949, in its organizer, the mouthpiece of RSS, it wrote that Indian Constitution should be Manusmriti. It again repeated the same in 1950, January 11, that Manusmriti should be the Constitution. We must see that the Ambedkar, who could understand these things because of his farsightedness, he banned the Manusmriti in 1927. RSS formed in 1925, but Dr. Ambedkar banned Manusmriti in 1927, December 25. So RSS again demanded this Manusmriti as an Indian Constitution. Now they are going to have that agenda is with them. Now they are the Dharma Sansad are there. Many meetings are going on with Hindu sannyasis and RSS ideologues for drafting. They have already reported that this a new constitution is in the process. They are not accepting this constitution. They were not even upheld the national flag. It was only during the Vajpayee regime that they first raised the national flag in Nagpur. We know all these things. I need to explain all these things. And this is the history of RSS. They were not for the majority of the people, because according to Manusmriti, which is the ideological basis of RSS fascism in India, according to that Manusmriti, women are subhumans. Dalits are subhumans. They are not human beings.
Sutras.
The most inhuman institution, caste system, whose ideological basis is that Manusmriti, the book, that is the RSS ideology. It is based on that the fascism, Indian fascism is built up. We must understand, we must see that according to the concrete situation in each country, according to the historical, according to the social, cultural, concrete facts. International capital, when it is facing crisis today, because imperialism is facing the biggest ever crisis. When we are discussing banks are again, Silicon Valley, banks are collapsed. So many, even Signature Bank is followed by the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank. So capitalism is continuously facing crisis. So when crisis is confronted by imperialism, to what is called to shore up, to maintain its profit rate, it will resort to all means, dividing the people, polarizing the people on the lines of religion, and dividing people on the lines of reactionary ideologies, majoritarianism, putting majority against the minority. So these are agendas of international capital, corporate capital. And in the Americas, if they follow evangelism, in the Zionism they follow, and even neo-tribalism they follow, use Buddhism they use. According to Myanmar and Sri Lanka, we know, in India, Hindutva, that is the ideology of, that is Manusmriti, that is the basis of ours. So now this majoritarian agenda, that putting the majoritarian agenda of Hindutva against the Muslims and other sections, minorities, so that a polarization is being created. But actually we know that the agenda of RSS is not majority of the Hindus, so-called Hindus. There is a few Brahmanical upper caste will be the ultimate beneficiaries of this regime. Majority of the people will not be the beneficiaries. It is corporates, Adanis, Ambanis, and multinationals who are going to gain. This is the situation. So today, if you criticize, what is the situation? Today, if you criticize Modi, if you criticize the government, Modi regime, then it is anti-national. It is a treason. You will be subjected to sedition, that is, and you will be subjected to UAPA, Anti-Sedition Act. This is the situation. So criticizing the government, and if you express your opinion, then it will be anti-national. It will be against the country. So criticizing the government is criticizing, it is anti-national and treason. This is the interpretation that is there. If you have no right to criticize the regime, you have no right to differ. And if you say something, if you differ from a position, then it is against the country. This is the situation. This is fascism. So suppose that is why we say that the fascism and the other ruling classes, there is a difference. So we are saying that in this particular context, what is the task of the people? Our task is to defeat the RSS and BJP from power. That is the immediate task. For that, what we should do? We should have a minimum agenda. We should have a minimum program. That minimum program, I mean minimum agenda means defeat RSS. Defeat fascism is the single point agenda upon which we must unite together. Otherwise, we will be in a situation where tomorrow we may not be able to speak like this. So if tomorrow we have to criticize, we have to speak on behalf of the people, then this regime should be removed at the earliest. This is the task of the people of this country. We have to be very bold in saying, we have to face whatever we are going to face, we have to face seriously. That is the situation. Therefore, in the coming 2024 election, the people of India should try their maximum, and all non-fascist parties should try their maximum. They should come forward to avoid a split in anti-RSS votes. So anti-RSS votes should not be splitted. That should be the agenda, and the fascists should not be allowed to come to power. For this, communists have a role, because we know as communists, our task is that we should always, nobody is there to take up the task of the working class and the oppressed. Only communists are there. So we are bound to take up the task of the working class and the oppressed. We should be building up movements. We should develop struggles, because otherwise nobody will be there. So as communists, progressive and left sections, democratic sections, while we are with the working class and the oppressed, we must have the immediate task with us that while upholding this issue, while we are with this long-term strategic interest, upholding the interest of the working class, we should see that the immediate task is to defeat the fascists. Therefore, we must have a tactical understanding. We must have a tactical alliance with all non-fascist forces. that should be in such a way that we should not surrender. While we are uniting with the non-fascist forces in the anti-fascist struggle, we should not surrender our principle, our strategic long-term task of upholding the interests of the working class and the oppressed. So while continuing these struggles, while whatever form we require, we must see that the immediate task is to defeat the fascists. For that, we should have a broad anti-fascist front. There is a history behind us. There is history is there. What the communists did in the 40s, when Hitler fascism, Mussolini fascism were there. At that time, the Communist International built up an anti-fascist united front led by Soviet Union. Even there, an alliance was there between other powers, other imperialist powers, including Churchill and Roosevelt, we know, America and Britain. Why? Fascism is the most reactionary, the most dangerous system in the world. Therefore, to defeat that, the communists had to unite with other ruling classes, even imperialists. And so that is the immediate task. But we must also see that while taking up that task, we should not surrender the interests of the working class and oppressed. Therefore, in the anti-fascist front, while we build up the anti-fascist front with all like-minded forces, we should keep our task in behind that we should always be with the working class and the oppressed. That means the interest of their survival against neoliberal policies, against corporatization, against price rise, against unemployment, against corruption, against ecological crisis, which are all because of corporate capital. So it is a corporate capital behind all these, behind ecological crisis, behind the life of all the serious situation that we are facing, oppression of women, oppression of minorities, oppression of Dalits, oppression of all people, all are integrally connected with the interest of the corporates. So while opposing these neoliberal policies, while opposing corporatization, we must be very clear on our agenda that we have to defeat the RSS, because otherwise we will not be able to move forward. So taking up the task, we must see that our independent position of upholding our long-term interest should be there. Otherwise, we will be suicidal in our task. So this agenda should be clearly spelled out. So while we unite with non-fascist forces, our independent position of upholding the rights of the oppressed and the working class should be there. That as left we should uphold, and at the same time we should go for an anti-fascist task. And we must be capable, because there are many ruling class parties today. At a time when concerted effort is needed to defeat the fascists, to defeat RSS, BJP, the ruling classes are not that much interested. They are behind petty politics. You know, we have seen in Tripura, we are seeing in many elections now what is happening. This serious question in UP, even the BSP and the SP are there. They on this question, what is any understanding is there. In Bihar, what we are seeing. So this question is very important. And all over India, the ruling class parties, because of their interest, because of their what is called the merger with the interest of the capital, they are not upholding the interest of the people. This question should be seriously analyzed. And only by a nation-wide campaign, only by an anti-fascist movement initiated by the left today, other ruling class parties can also come to this basic task. Otherwise, these ruling class parties in different states, they will compete each other and the RSS will gain. And we know that the RSS-BJP campaign is ruling with a minority vote. They have not the majority support of this country because of the present system of election. Otherwise, if we follow proportional representation or some other electoral system, this type of victory will not be there. So in a country, in our country, where all these malpractices and all other issues are possible, all types of manipulations are possible, they are effectively using. They have the corporate fund. Large 75, more than 80% of the corporate fund is going to, in the name of corporate social responsibility and other, are going to the ruling party. So they are capable, they have the corporate backing, they have the corporate media is behind them. and they have the machinery behind them. The whole administration is behind them. So this can be resisted and defeated only if we have a broadest possible anti-fascist unity today. So that is a task. So we should initiate, in the present situation, we should initiate, the left democratic progressive section should initiate a movement by which an atmosphere should be created in the country. And we know we are weak, we are small forces, we are not capable today, but we should create an atmosphere. Atmosphere should be created, and a political situation will be created so that these ruling class parties should be capable, I mean non-fascist ruling, because there is no other option today. So the non-fascist ruling parties should be uniting against the fascist. That is the situation. That we have to create the condition. Only then we will be able to lead class struggle. I am open. We are openly saying. So we have to lead the class struggle. We have to change the social system. Within the social system, within the rule of capital, private property, the people, the working class and the oppressed, women, they will not have any liberation. So we must change the system. But today, even for struggling for that, even for campaigning for that, we should have an atmosphere of freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of assembly. So that is not possible in a fascist context. So that is why we should be very serious in this context, and we should be capable of, openly we are saying, we should be capable of the contradictions within the ruling classes are there. And these contradictions should be used in favor of the people, of the working class and the oppressors. So only if we are capable, we can effectively use all the left democratic progressive sections of our country, irrespective of their ideological positions. We may have many ideological differences. Keeping that, we should come to a single point agenda of defeating fascism today. That is the immediate task, and it is that with that perspective today CPM and RSTAR is working. We have our line, our program, our long-term task, but we have an immediate task in front of us. Our political resolution that was adopted at the 12th Party Congress uphold that the immediate task before the people is to defeat fascism. And for that, a broadest possible anti-fascist unity, united front should be created. This is our task. With this perspective, we are moving. Thank you, co-friends.